the talk of how our economy has been on a consistent upswing for going on, 9 consecutive years now, with GDP numbers, unemployment numbers, housing numbers, all generally in an upward direction, or at least stable. There's one number that scares the hell out of economists because it's frighteningly high. And if we hit a recession, heaven knows how this number, this alarmingly huge number, is going to be reconciled. The number that I'm referring to is the corporate debt. America's corporate debt. See, corporate debt is the amount of money that corporations have been borrowing over the past 9 years. While borrowing has been so super cheap, it's been easy. It's nothing short of extraordinary where it is. And you want to know what that number stands at right now? $9 trillion. $9 trillion. I know you've heard people complain about our national debt, right? It's way too high as well. It's $21 trillion, but that's the public debt. That means our corporate debt, the private debt, is almost half of that. What were to happen if we were to suddenly hit a recession? You may not want to know. Richard Wolff is a professor of economics who is keenly aware of what could happen if our debt bubble does, in fact, burst. He joined me earlier this week from our Capitol studios. There's 2 areas we can go to, 3 really, if you include student loan debt, which seems to be somewhere around $2 trillion. The corporate debt in this country, which Richard will explain to you, which is about $9 trillion. And then our national debt, which is more of a public debt, which is around $21 trillion. Now, I know those numbers are huge and it's hard to kind of put them into perspective. So let's take them one at a time. Let's start with corporate debt. $9 trillion in corporate debt. How do we get there? What is it? And how much danger exists for us as a country with that big number?
Well, let's start with how it happened. You have to go back at least to 2008 and the crash of the American economy, the crash really of global capitalism. So frightened were the people who run the United States at that time, the big bankers in New York, the politicians at the Federal Reserve, and so on, that they rushed in to try to hold the economy from a complete collapse. And one of the things they did was drop interest rates to historically unprecedented lows. Not only all the way to zero, but on and off below zero, negative interest rates, which we hadn't seen hardly ever in our history. What this did made credit virtually free. And every corporation having any kind of difficulty over the last 10 years, and that's almost all of them, solved their problem by borrowing essentially free money. It was an opportunity none of them could forego. It was too delicious. It was a way to solve their problem that was easier, since the interest rates were next to nothing, than anything else they could have done. So they loaded up on debt. And now the problem is they're going to have a hard time in the years ahead making the kind of money they need to make to begin to pay off that debt, because especially now as interest rates are starting to go up, they're going to have a heavy load to solve in this way, and they're not prepared for it. And we have to remember.
By the way, I just got to say, there's nothing wrong with borrowing money to start a company. It's part of the American story, right? You Richard and Rick get together. Hey, let's start a restaurant around the corner. We don't have enough money. My uncle will give us some money, but we have to borrow the rest. That's fine. The problem, it seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, is that's been flipped. It used to be you'd borrow 60%, you'd come up with 60% of the money, maybe borrow 40%, maybe 30%. But now it's the other way around. Companies are being built on like 80% debt, and they're only putting in 20% cash. That doesn't seem right.
Absolutely. Let me give you a simple example. They borrowed over the last 10 years, for example, huge amounts of money to go into the stock market and buy the shares of their own company. It's called a share buyback. Why would they do that? That doesn't increase their capacity to produce anything. It just reduces the number of shares. But here's the reason. When they go in and buy their own shares, they drive up the value of the shares. And many of the corporate executives doing that have pay packages linked to the price of the shares in the market. So this was a simple way to borrow money at no cost and boost their own pay packages, which went off the grid over the last 10 years. Another thing they did was to buy each other, mergers and acquisitions. Again, that doesn't change the productivity of our society. It's just a manipulation among corporations made possible and cheap by all this free credit given out by the government. So yeah, it has buried us in a corporate debt problem. We've never had this before at this scale. And if an economic downturn comes, as most economists expect over the next 12 to 24 months, nobody can guess what will happen when the companies that go down can't pay back the debts they've taken out, and how that will spread the misery across our economy. Very scary proposition.
Let me end with this number that I just found, and I think it's correct. I got it as I was researching this segment and this interview that I was about to do. It says that right now our banking or corporate cash to debt ratio in the United States as of the end of 2018 was at 12%. I'm not an economist or a financier, but that number troubles me as an American. Should it?
Absolutely. It tells you that if bad economic times come, and again, the majority of economists expect that over the next 12 to 14 months, an economic downturn. It tells you that for every dollar of debt that's going to come due, the cash that is held in the hands of the borrower is 12 cents, and that doesn't begin to cover it. So you could have a classic modern version of what we used to call a run on the banks, or a bank panic, or a monetary panic. And let's not forget, what led to the crisis of 2008 was the inability of people who couldn't afford it to pay back the mortgages they had taken out, and then the system fell apart based on that failure of the debt to be repayable.
I think even I understand it. If we get into a very difficult situation and you got there because you overborrowed, there isn't any place to go to borrow to fix the original borrow. So it's almost like a real catch-22 that we can find ourselves in. Richard Wolff, as usual. Go ahead, you were going to finish?
No, I just want to say that it is a very dangerous place we've come into, and that's why all this talk of recovery hides the fact that the things we did to look like we were recovering created a greater vulnerability than what we had in the first place.
Well said. Richard Wolff, as usual. That's why we like having you on. You tell it like it is. Thank you, my friend, for taking time to join us.
Glad to be here, Rick.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.
All right, Shalom Akim, all praises, honor, and glory go to Yahweh Shema Shai Bashem. Kakwadash, double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to you fellow Akim out there pushing out this word in truth and sincerity. All right, so this is your brother Kanat, and I want to do a response video to a video I just watched on RT, and the video is called "What Will Crash the U.S. Economy?" And basically, you have Richard Wolff, he's an economist, and basically just going back and forth on how, America's done, and how America's in so much debt. Now, we know right now that America is in $21 trillion in debt, and there's no possible way that, America can pay that debt off. But they were going into the corporate debt, which these corporations, as you see, these big corporations like Apple, these Fortune 500 companies, they were able to borrow money at 0% interest rates, basically free money, to pretty much prop up their corporation, build their corporation by borrowing money, and they're sustaining themselves by borrowing that money. But now, they're going into how the interest rates are going up. They're going to have to pay back that money, because really a lot of these different corporations, they're not making money. You know, they're being held up by being able to borrow more money from the federal government, you know, without any interest rates. It's basically like you not having any money, right? And then you're able to go just get credit cards. And then when you run out of money, you can go and apply for another credit card and get another line of credit without any interest rates. But it comes a point to where you're going to have to pay that money back eventually, right? And the amount of work that you do, okay, because your overhead is too much, you know, housing, food prices, you know, wages are stagnant. You're not making enough money to actually pay back that debt at that particular time. So when the credit runs out, what happens? All right, all hell's gonna break loose. And this is all part of, you know, America being destroyed, America going down. Now I have a scripture. Actually, I have like 2 scriptures, and I'm gonna make this really quick. You know, I just wanted to just speak about, you know, how there's no possible way that America can pay back this debt. Furthermore, America was created, okay, the money system was created out of thin air. And who has done that? The elites. And they done that to basically, you know, make trillions and trillions of dollars from the American people, you know, by scamming them, by bamboozling them. And in the interview, they keep saying we as the American people. No, we. What do you mean we? See, us Israelites, especially us Israelites that woke up to the fact that we're Israelites, and woke up to the fact that the so-called white man's the devil. We don't have anything to do with America. All right, we're here in America because you brought us over here. The so-called white man brought us over here to serve slavery. Now you do have some of our people that, you know, participate in this society where, well, they're going to go down with this society. Okay, we don't care about the money system. We use money because we have to use money in this system. Well, you had what's it called, one of the lawyers back in the ancient world that tried to trip up Yahushai. If I'm not mistaken, it said the lawyer basically asked Yahushai, who, you know, should we pay taxes, so to speak? And Yahushai was like, hey, who faces on that money? So render unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and render unto Yahweh Shema Shai what's Yahweh Shema Shai. So yeah, we pay taxes. You know, we use Federal Reserve notes, so to speak, because that's the currency that is set up. But we don't participate in this world by buying into it. You know, that's why the scriptures say, "Come out of her, my people." So let me read this real quick. This is Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. Yeah, Esau's philosophy. And this is part of his philosophy, this fractional reserve banking, which is creating money out of thin air. You know, we are already in a cashless society, all right, because the money system is nothing but zeros and ones on the computer screen, okay, with a little bit of actual paper money. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Yeah, he's not in the Caucasus Mountain. He's not in the land of Edom. He's everywhere but in the land of Edom, spreading mischief. In this Federal Reserve System, you know, creating money out of thin air, putting everybody in debt. You know, that's mischief. You know, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Esau can't be satisfied until he destroys all creation, because that's the road he's on. All right, and this is the reason why people are so, you know, upset at the current state of the world. You know, people are in sorrow because the wicked are bearing rule. You know, and this Federal Reserve System, which this Federal Reserve System, or this fractional reserve banking system, everybody uses that around the whole world. Esau has forced all nations to use this fractional reserve banking and put all these different countries in debt, you know, and have them subjugated to the elite banking family, because all monies have to run through the elites. And if a nation tries to, you know, come off that system, what happens? They get bombed, they get invaded. This is what's going on in Venezuela. That's what is going on in Syria and Libya. You know, that's why they want to go into Iran. You know, They're able to stop all cash flow from coming in by what do they call it? By tariffs and by sanctions. You know, basically it's a modern day siege, you know, stopping all trade. Okay? But gather unto him all nation, and heap unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? Because everything that the red Hebrew Edomite has, the so-called white man, okay, the nation of Edom, he has taken it. And not only has he taken it, but he has taken it by force. Nothing that the so-called white man has is his. He has taken the Israelites, he has put them in captivity, all right, and he has made them subservient to him. You know, he has made them buy into this system. Or you got Jake on TV, on the internet, okay, got tattoos of money, white people, so-called white people tattooed on them, Benjamin Franklin's and, you know, George Washington's and Abraham Lincoln. You know, they love money. They love them green dollars. Okay. It says, so basically taunting proverbs are against the so-called white man. All these nations are now realizing, or they're being more outspoken because they have military might now. Well, as the scriptures say, let the weak say I am strong. What is that? Joel, if I'm not mistaken, the 3rd chapter. And say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And that thick clay is speaking about debt. Okay, when you go into the Hebrew of that word thick clay, it's speaking about debt. And this is what the red Hebrew Edomite has done. He has created a system on debt, and he has made the whole world debtors unto him. You know, and this is what's going on. The society is going to crash. Like the title of the video is, what will crash the U.S. economy? Now, you know, ultimately it's the Heavenly Father that's going to crash the U.S. economy through the hands of the elites. See, the elites, they have an agenda, and their agenda is to get everybody stuck on this system, all nations. And then once they're done with this system, once they have all the infrastructure, you know, set in stage for the mark of the beast, you know, then they're going to use order out of chaos to bring in this new system, because everybody is stuck on this system. In order for people to be, you know, more, I should say, more open to a new system, is to do what? Is to cause chaos throughout the whole world. Which, if you look at it, this is how Yahweh Shema Shai is going to bring in the kingdom of heaven. He's going to do it by order out of chaos. Order out of chaos. Order ab chaos, which is a Latin term meaning order out of chaos. This is how the red Hebrew Edomite rules. But we got to look at it more spiritually and more in depth. This is actually how Yahweh Shema Shai is ruling. Okay, he's using Esau to bring chaos out to the world, and then what he's going to do? He's going to destroy him, and then the Lord is going to bring total harmony to the planet Earth. So in reality, Yahweh Shema Shai, he's the one that's doing all these things, and he's the one who's going to crash society. He's the one who's going to crash all these different government societies. All right, he's the one that's going to rise up all these nations. What's going to go into it? Okay, that thick clay, they're saying corporate debt is at 9 trillion. These corporations, they just keep borrowing money because they can. All right, because they don't make a profit. These nations, these corporations, they don't even make a profit. They keep borrowing money. Okay, verse 7: shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee? And thou shalt be for booties unto them, because thou hast spoiled many nations. All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of man's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city, and of all that dwell therein. So ultimately, how Esau is going to be spoiled is by thermonuclear weapons. You know, well, it tells you in Isaiah the 13th chapter how, you know, let me bring it out. I don't really have too much time, but let me see if I can just bring it out real quick. Just real quick. Yep, this is 'cause when you read Isaiah 13, this is really speaking about, which is manifold. It's really speaking about nuclear missiles, taking hold of America and totally destroying America. Isaiah 13:16, their children also shall be dashed into pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Thou shalt not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men into pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. So this is how they're going to spoil Babylon. Okay, this is how they're going to, well, it tells you that their house, let me go back to 16. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, see? And their wives ravished. Now, this is not physically, which, some of these things are going to happen because of how this society is going to fall. But really, it's talking about those nuclear missiles spoiling Babylon. Okay, to spoil, when something's spoiled, is what? It's destroyed. Okay, so this is how America's going to be spoiled. Because America has spoiled many nations. Okay, they have destroyed many nations, and part of that destruction, part of how they destroy many nations, is by putting them on this fiat funny money system. They heaped all the gold when they heaped all that gold for us. Let me bring out this last scripture. All right. Ezekiel 28:3, behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thy understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches. See, this system is very intricate. Okay. To really understand this system is pretty much almost impossible. The way that Esau runs this banking system, because really, when he runs this system, all right, it's really behind the closed doors. He's doing something totally different. All right, the way that you study economics and the financial banking system, that's really not how the way that he runs it. All right, he runs it by doing whatever the hell he wants. Okay, he can insert zeros and ones. He can create money out of thin air, and then he'll give you some bullshit ass excuse of how the economy is ran. These different interest rates, which these things are used as indicators, but when you really look into it, he does whatever the hell he wants. Okay, so by his wisdom and by his understanding, by him understanding how things work, and that's why he puts billions and billions of dollars into studying things. There's always a study, there's always a scientist studying something, right? And that money that he gives these scientists is created out of thin air. It's not actual physical, right? Right now, if Esau wanted to, he can open up an account for you, and he could put $1 billion in there. Okay, and this is part of the reason why there's something called inflation, which that shouldn't ever exist. Okay, because it should be a fair exchange. Like there's a term in the world: fair exchange, no robbery. A one gold coin is one gold coin. One silver coin is one silver coin. Okay, and then you agree upon the barter rate. So if you buying vegetables or whatever the weight, it is, that's how much it's going to cost, and that price is not going to go up. Maybe it might go up because of the scarcity. Okay, so there's a difference there. But in reality, the price is going to stay the same. Okay? Let me read verse 4 again. With thy wisdom and with thy understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches. So, by Esau's wicked wisdom and understanding, all right, he has gotten himself riches. All right, he was able to obtain all the world's wealth, and has gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. Because he's giving you paper dollars, but he's the one who has all the gold. And people don't even value gold like you should. Because gold is actual a weight. That's actual money, which the word money is just a measurement. Okay, the word money is just a measurement, or money is just a measurement, just as centimeters or ounces, liters. When you do measurements and conversions, that's all money is. It's a conversion. So when there were dollars, okay, that was just a measurement. A dollar is just a measurement of how much gold is supposed to be worth. It says, by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic thou hast increased riches, and thy heart is lifted up because of thy riches. See, by his trade, by bartering. Okay, so I just wanted to go into that real quick. This place is going to crash. It's done because of how Esau set this wicked kingdom up. So until next time, I want to say shalom to the elect.